Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. Today I'm going to be sharing about some first grade lessons. I'm going to talk about a couple songs that are, a couple things that I used in the last week or so. Here we go around the mulberry bush. I've adapted that for a couple different lessons and changed and grown that lesson, and then also talk about how I incorporate the book, the Hanukkah Hop. So that's coming up in just a second. A couple quick things. If you are interested in any of the resources, books, stuff I talk about in these videos, you can find those on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org. There's a whole page dedicated to the links and things that I share. And you can find that on the video tab, or just click the link in the bottom of the caption wherever you're watching or listening to this. Also, there's a Facebook group, Every Moment Matters Music Education Facebook group. I'd love if you come and join. It's a great place to ask questions, get to know people, continue these great conversations we have. Since we don't get a chance to be with other music teachers enough, it's great to have an online place to do that. Okay, so a couple quick announcements. I mentioned this last week, but I just want to mention it again so that more people know. If you've ever purchased one of my Rockin' All Year bulletin board sets, it's basically for every month of the year I have a set of 30 posters that highlight just different musicians who are born in that month. And it has their birth and death dates and a little bio about them, picture of them. And so every year I go through and I update them in case someone has died during the year, or if their details have changed, or if they need a new picture, or just other things like that. But also every month or every year I update the calendar. So if you print off a calendar with the birthday, so it'll say on the 17th is so-and-so's birthday, or the 8th is so-and-so's birthday. I update those every year. Those have all been updated. So if you've already purchased those, you're interested in those, just go to my purchases on TPT, the My Purchases tab, excuse me, and you should be able to find all those updates in there. The other thing is, if you still are it is going to be a long 2 or 3 weeks between now and winter break, I totally understand. I was getting online looking for things today, and so I decided to put my TPT store on sale tomorrow and the day after, so Tuesday, December 6th and Wednesday, December 7th. So if you're interested, all my stuff's going to be 20% off. You could check that out if you think that something there will be helpful for you. Okay, so let me talk about my first grade lessons. I'm really excited about these. It's been just, it's something I sort of did last year, but it's grown and changed a little bit this year. And so I wanted to talk about sort of some of the integrations and ways you can use some critical thinking skills, use some critical thinking adaptation so that kids learn and grow a little bit better. So just some things in this lesson. So I start out by telling kids, when I was little, I tell them this sort of story about when I was little. I grew up and mom would send me out in the summer, I'm busy, go play. And I go play outside, and I talked about this bush, this tree that was in the backyard of my house, and it grew these berries, and I talked about them and what that looks like. I usually try and, when I'm giving the kids a story or context like this, I like to have pictures. So I have pictures of an actual mulberry bush, what it looks like, the leaves, the stems, when it's growing. And then also I have a picture of mulberries, of ripe ones, so a dark purple one, not ripe ones, green and pink and white. And so I do that because, I want them to sort of see and make connections. A lot of kids might have heard the word mulberry, but maybe don't know what it is. At least my kids, because they don't see them as often in our neighborhoods. But where I was growing up in Nebraska, we had them sort of all over. And we do have them here in Kansas, but my kids just can't always identify them as quickly or as accurately. So I like to show them that, and also, because then they're like, oh, what is that berry? Oh, is it a strawberry? Is it a raspberry? Is it a blackberry? No, it's a mulberry. And so we talk about that, and then we sing the song. And so I'm just going to play here and sing a version of the song. This is the version I learned growing up. I'm just doing this. I'm playing chords as if it's C, but I'm capoing up 2 frets, so it should sound in D. So the version I know is, here we go around the mulberry bush, mulberry bush, mulberry bush. Here we go around the mulberry bush so early in the morning. Now the first time I do this with kids, I do play it in D. Eventually I bump it up to F so that we're getting basically that full octave from C to C. But this first time through, when we're playing with the words and playing with making sure they know it and learn it. I bring it down just a couple steps so that the part that we sing the most often is a little bit more comfortable, because it does push a little high for first grade voices, and so to be continually doing that over and over, I just bring it down a little bit. So anyway, so we sing that first version. Here we go round the mulberry bush, mulberry bush, mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush so early in the morning. And we do that, and then I talk about, these mulberries, and they're so great. And I tell this story about how I eat them, and they're so good, I'm having fun. And some of them are so juicy that when I grab the mulberry, it pops a little bit, and I get a little bit of mulberry juice on my hand, which is not a big deal. But it sort of does stain my hand a little bit, just like if you were to get a marker stain on your finger, like you can wash it and your hand is clean, but you still may have a little color on there. That's what the mulberry does. It's not a huge deal, but because it's that dark purple color, it sort of stains my fingers. But okay. Anyway, so these mulberries are so good, I decided I'm going to put some in my pockets and take them home for later, and I do. But then some of them were so ripe that they popped in my pocket. And then that's real trouble because Mom's already busy. And so I decided I'm going to wash it myself. I'm going to wash my clothes. And so I had to take off my sweatshirt or whatever to be able to do that. So I take off my sweatshirt, and then I go and I have to wash it. So I have to use soap. And I really, just like when you're washing your hands, that same action, you're going to do that just where you're going to put the clothes on your hand. So I actually have a piece of like old bulletin board fabric that I pull out to sort of demonstrate what that looks like. Kids can mimic it with just, pretend. But for them to see, like, okay, some fabric in my hand and what am I doing to it, that really does help them. It helps them sort of understand what that process would look like if you were washing my hand, because not a lot of my kids have done that or seen that, and so showing them that is a cool, powerful thing. So I have just like a little tiny piece of old bulletin board fabric, or a fabric remnant or scrap or whatever, and I just mime putting on soap and washing it. And then I say, great, we can add it to our song. This is the way we wash our clothes, wash our clothes, wash our clothes. This is the way we wash our clothes so early in the morning. And guess what? That got the stain out. But there's still soap and suds on here. So there's actually a special verb. I don't know if you know this. There's a special verb that means to to use water and to get soap and suds off of something. And we talk around what that word might be, and then we come up with rinse. Or if we don't come up with rinse, I share the word rinse. We rinse our clothes. So using water to get the soap and suds off, we're rinsing. Just like you rinse your hands with water when you're done washing. First you wash, then you rinse, right? Okay, so let me sing. This is the way we rinse our clothes, and we pretend like what that would be like. And then I add another verse. The clothes are great and they're clean. They're just very wet. So there's this word we can use, and by this point I've honed in on there's a special word we can use for just this occasion. How cool that there's a word just for this. So washing, rinsing. The other word that I put up on the board when we start is mulberry, so that they can sort of see that. Anyway, so I've got some nouns and verbs, and I even start using that language because kids are hearing that language in their classroom. I say, so a noun that you might want to know is mulberry bush. So we talk about that, or mulberry. Right? And then we talk about some verbs, some action words. Anytime with first graders, if I'm saying nouns, I'll say it like nouns, a person, place, or thing. And anytime I say verb, I say a verb, an action word. And just because they're hearing that in their classroom, but then also just cementing it in my room is real helpful. So I say, okay, we've got another verb for when you take the fabric and you twist it to get as much water as you can just with your hands. And we could say twist our clothes. We could say that, but actually, I can twist my body. And I can twist a kielbasa. I can do that. That word can be used for different things. But there is a special verb, a special word that means just twisting fabric or twisting clothes basically to get extra water out of them. And do you know what that? We go around and then we talk about wring. And sometimes I ask the first grade teachers, I was like, do you talk about silent W? And they're like, not for a while. So I could be like, hey, this is a word with a special silent W, W-R-I-N-G, but I don't get into that. I just write it up on the board. And if a kid asks, then I'll be like, oh, silent W or whatever. But that was one that when I taught this lesson, I saw the first grade teachers at lunch and I was like, hey, do y'all talk? Because I was like, hey, if they talk about it, then I'm going to reinforce that. But if they don't, then I'm just going to move on. So by now we've got one noun, we've got mulberry, and then 3 verbs. We've got wash, rinse, wring. And then I say, when we wring out, so we sing, this is the way we wring our clothes. And then I say, if you've wrung out most of the water, there's still some water, it's still damp. And so we might still need to do something else. And we talk about drying the clothes when mom's using the dryer, so we need to use a clothesline. So I have a long piece of string, and I pull that out, and I've got my little fabric remnant. I put it on there, but it keeps falling off, and I say, I'm going to need something special, a special thing that I have, and I have clothespins. And so that becomes another noun, another special word. We're using this story, clothespins. I write that up on the board, and then that's how we dry our clothes. So I have one kid hold on one end of the string, one hold the other, and I clothespin it on, and then we talk about drying our clothes. By the time we're done, we have 2 nouns, which I write in like purple, mulberry, and clothespin, and 4 verbs, which I'll write in red or blue or something just contrasting. Wash, rinse, wring, dry. And that's basically the end of that lesson, or that part of the lesson. We move on to something else. In the next lesson, we come back and I say, we were talking about how early in the morning in the summer, going out and eating mulberries and all that, wasn't that great? And they're like, yeah, that was so much fun. I was like, but you know what? Early this morning, today, I had to get up and walk my dogs. And when I went out early in the morning, it was very cold. Can you think of something that maybe you would put on if you had to go walk a dog or something this morning in the very, very cold? Can you think of something you might put on? And they come up with 2 or 3 things: scarf, mittens, coat, whatever. And then I have a page of clip art that shows up on my, up on the screen of different winter weather items. It's like 8 or 9 different things. A coat, a jacket, a scarf, gloves, hat, earmuffs, stuff like that. Warm socks, snow pants that you might wear. And I put up the visual because some kids it really does help to spark their memory or ideas of what they might want to wear. It's good to always have pictures of any vocabulary words they're going to talk about, just so they have something concrete to see. Whether you're teaching English language learners or not, it's a great practice for English language learners to have those pictures, but even for general ed kids, it's a great practice to do, is to have the pictures up. So I put up some pictures, and for each one we sing, because I was like, mulberry bush, we washed, rinsed, wring, and dry our clothes. We never talk about wear our clothes. And so we talk about, this is the way we wear our jacket, wear our jacket, wear our jacket. So for each one we sing, and then we do the action of putting that on. So this is the way we wear our scarf, wear our scarf, wear our scarf. This is the way we wear our scarf so early in the morning. And then maybe we'll do, this is the way we wear our gloves, wear our gloves, wear our gloves. And so we go through each of those. It's just another way to sort of take that song, to piggyback the melody, to take that song and story and add one more thing. And then at the end, I talk about, did we have any verbs in this part? Well, where... But most of these were just things like, nouns, so person, place, or thing. So what have we got? Scarf, earmuff, snow pants. Those are all just nouns, right? Oh, cool. Okay. And so that's, again, sort of the end of that part of the lesson. We move on to something else. But here we go around the mulberry bush and talk about, like, here's the way we wear our clothes, and what clothes, all those winter clothes items. And then in the third lesson is like a beginning of the class lesson. So this is 3 lessons over the course of a week and a half, basically. In the third lesson, we come back and we take that song and I say, I put on my warm clothes last weekend, just like in the song we sang. I put on my warm clothes, not to walk my dogs. I went all the way to a store because I was looking for presents. Because this is the time of year when a lot of people are getting presents for different things. Do you know maybe something they would get a present for? We talk about, maybe Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Las Posadas, New Year, whatever. Some of us have birthdays in December. Different reasons you might get a present. So we talk about that, and I say, great, you know what, though? If we were going to go to get a present at a store, there are a lot of verbs, a lot of things we'd have to do along the way. So I'm wondering if you can help me think of some of those things. And so we brainstorm, this is the way we buy our present. But as we're doing that, here, I'm going to turn this way instead. Okay. So what are some of the things that we might do? And we write down, we make a list. Okay, so what would we do? Okay, we buy it. Great. Okay, well, what else do you have to do? You have to, okay, and my kids came up with like 8 different steps today in the lesson. So let's see, what did they come up with? They came up with buy. They came up with find. Buy a present, find a present. They said shop. They said, oh, and then they were like, well, if you're going to buy it, you have to pay for it. Okay. Okay, and then they also said wrap. They said someone was like, but if you're going to pay for it, you have to scan it. Okay, so that kid had like self-scanners apparently. Okay, and then what was the 8th one that came up with? Maybe not 8th. Though give. I can't remember. There was one more that they said. I don't remember. And I said, this is great. We could totally sing this. We could absolutely sing this. And just like before, we could like do the actions too. Like we could do the action and sing it. But you know what? I think it's not in the right order. And so this is something that critical thinking scholars talk about. They talk about sequencing. We do this all the time in music when we ask kids to repeat. Okay, what was in verse 1? What was in verse 2? How did verse 3 go? What was the next? We ask them to do that all the time. This is basically just giving them a list of words that they came up with and saying, if you were going to do this, what order would it need to be? What would have to go first? Because you wouldn't buy it and then find it and then shop for it and then pay and then wrap it, but then scan it. What? So you have to go through and we talk about like, well, what comes first, what comes second? This is great for critical thinking. It's great for ELA. It's great for what we do in music when all the time we're asking kids to sequence and think about the process, think back and think through the song. So this is really valuable. So we said, well, what's the first thing you have to do? We've got buy, find, shop, pay, wrap, scan, give. Okay, the last one's probably going to be give. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be 7. That's going to be the last one, right? Okay, and so then let's see. The first one they said was shop. And then shop, okay, we got buy, find, pay, wrap, scan. Okay, I think find is going to have to be second. And then they're going to go buy it. And when they buy it, they have to scan it and then pay for it, then wrap it, and then we're at give. So we went through that and sort of talked through that process. It took way longer than what I just did, but we talked through that process of here are all of the verbs, what order are we going to put them in? First, this is the way we shop for presents, this is the way we find a present, find. And they came up with actions. We sang through each verse. This is the way we buy a present, buy it. This is the way we scan a present. For whatever reason you're buying a present, here's how you're going to do it. And we sang through sort of what that would look like. Again, taking the time to talk about what are the verbs that are involved with that, just so that they sort of have that in their head and think through the sequence of that. And then after the lesson, I say, I've got this great book about a special a holiday that's coming up. It's a holiday called Hanukkah, and we talk a little bit about Hanukkah and how, like, some of the things you might see or things you might do. Play the dreidel, or you might have. And I have visuals in my room. I have this like cutout menorah thing that I got maybe at Target a couple years ago. They have little, usually an end cap with like a bunch of Hanukkah stuff. So I got this. This is really cool. I actually have a menorah, like an actual one that I sometimes pull out and use. And we talk through some of the things that kids might see. I don't do the dreidel song with first grade, but I made a resource several years ago with the dreidel song, like with details and information about it. So let me show you sort of what I include, because I pull this out for first graders to show them. I pull this out to show them sort of what they might see. Let me see if I can switch this over. So I show them, okay, so there's the dreidel song. I don't show them all these slides. I pull out the slides I want. These are all in the resource in case. When I first made this, I was like, people might print it out and use it as a bulletin board, so I've included a lot of stuff. But I also have a version as a PowerPoint in that file in case you want to use it. So I don't talk with first graders about the song history or where it comes from. Kids might want to know that if they're singing the song, but my kids aren't really singing the song. I'm just using this as a reference. We talk about dreidels. We talk about Judaism and like symbols they might see. So like the Star of David, the Ten Commandments, a menorah, the dreidel. I've got this picture of several years ago from the White House where they're lighting a menorah so they can sort of see like what that looks like. We talk a little bit about that. And then there's a picture at the end of kids playing with dreidels. So I just basically use this as a reference. I pull out like 4 different images from this set and I use it. I actually use the full set for other grades when I teach the dreidel song, but I'm not doing that in this lesson. So for me in this lesson, it's just like an extra visual to give kids some ideas of what they might see if they were to go somewhere or live in a family that celebrates Hanukkah. So then we do that, and then I say, and I've got this great book. It's called The Hanukkah Hop, and this is by Erica Silverman and Stephen D'Amico. I put a link on the links page to this book. It is, I've said this many times, I think, on these Musical Mondays, but I think it's listed on Amazon. You don't have to buy it on Amazon. I put a link to the Amazon listing because you can go to that Amazon listing and like maybe do a preview of the book. You can get the author information, the ISBN, the publishing information, all of that, and then you can go to your local library or used bookstore or wherever. But I just put a link to the Amazon listing in case you wanted to get all that information. Amazon is great because of the ISBN and the author and all of that. It's actually, I don't think this book is actually available on Amazon. So go there and get all that information you need and then buy it somewhere else. But anyway, I put the link there in case you're interested. So the Hanukkah Hop, I'll just show you a couple pages. I talked about this previous years, but it's a great one. I'll show you sort of how I pull it out for these lessons. Rachel's twirling streamers. Daddy blows up blue balloons. Mommy sizzles latkes as she hums a Hanukkah tune. Okay, so balloons, streamers, and make these things called latkes, which are like sort of like hash browns, like potatoes, or like pancakey sort of things. But they're sort of like hash browns. My first graders, that's like the best connection they could make. Kitzel chases dreidels, that's the cat. Doodle sneaks a donut treat. Parrots bobbing to a jazzy bim-bom beat. Mommy shines menorahs. Daddy clears a space to dance. Rachel swirls with candles as she sings a bim-bom chant. Okay, I know I've shared about this on previous years because I've asked if you know a song that's actually supposed to go with this book, please let me know because I don't know if there's an actual song, so I just like made this version up. So the way I sing is biddy biddy bim bum bop, all whirl all night at our Hanukkah hop. That's just what I sing. But if you know that there's like, oh wait, David, there's an actual song, please let me know. I looked, I couldn't find it. Bubbas and Zetas zoom in by plane. Nieces and nephews ride buses and trains. Great aunts, second cousins, old friends from afar are arriving by motorbike, camper, and car. Rachel opens the front door, swings it wide, and 2 steps all of the guests inside. Biddy biddy bim bum bop, come dance at our first ever Hanukkah hop. So they go through, and this is a really cool book because they talk about the menorahs, they talk about singing special songs, they talk about rehashing the story of the Maccabees and sort of the reason for Hanukkah. They talk about latkes. They say you might eat them with some people like sour cream, some people like applesauce on top, not on the same latke, different. But they talk about eating them. We talk about jelly donuts. So all of these like tokens of Hanukkah, things that you would normally see. Dreidels, gelt, they talk about all of that. Okay, now this is where it gets really funny. Really fun. So the dreidel spins and she spins. Okay. And then in comes a klezmer band. And, okay, this is a page where it gets really exciting. Musicians are strumming and fiddling and drumming, singing and chiming, tooting and humming. Cousins are twisting and jumping and flipping. Great aunts and uncles are stepping and dipping. Nephews are strutting. Kitzel is pouncing. Nieces are swinging. Doodles bouncing. Bubbas are tapping. Zetas are snapping. Parrot is squawking and wings flapping. Toddlers are wiggling and children are giggling. Daddy is stomping and mommy is hopping. Rachel is whirling and bim-bom bopping. Biddy biddy bim-bom bop. Spin, swing, sway, dive, jump, pop. The party's going wild at the Hanukkah Hop. Okay, so this is, after we read the book, we talk about all the verbs. These pages are chock full of verbs. Spinning, pouncing, tapping, clapping, swaying, snapping, bounce, bounce, bouncing, wiggling, giggling, flip, flop, flapping. This becomes like a word wall, like a word bank for us when we then do things in the following lesson. We pull out all of these words and we use them. We've talked already once this semester about movement words and things you might do, and we talk about locomotor and non-locomotor. This is a super great one to pull out. Try some of the words, explore them. You could even bring back mulberry bush. This is the way we spin and pounce, spin and pounce. You could put things together. This is the way we flip, flip, flap, flip, flip, flap. And all of those things, and you could pull all that together. And you could even have a lesson where, like, is it locomotor, is it non-locomotor? Anyway, this is where all of that goes, those 3 or 4 lessons together. It brings us to Hanukkah Hop, and then we spend in the next lesson, we read another book called I Know an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Dreidel, because first grade has read several different I Know an Old Lady Who books this year, and so this is like a fun next connection. And because they just read about Hanukkah Hop, it's like a great in the next lesson to bring that in, talk a little bit more about Hanukkah, and then also we can come back here and we can use the movement words as an example. Okay, that was a lot in just about 25 minutes, so I hope that gave you some ideas of what you would maybe do with your first graders. I have one more video next Monday night, so I hope you'll come back and join me next Monday. But if you have any other ideas about this lesson or other things connected, please leave a comment wherever you're watching or listening to this, so that other folks can learn from you and get your ideas too. Okay, so I'll be back next week. I hope you'll join me next Monday night. And also, if you want, my TPT store goes on sale tonight at midnight, and it'll be on sale 20% off tomorrow, the 6th, and the following day, the 7th. If you're interested, you want a few more resources. Okay, everyone, I hope you have a great week. I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.